Wade in the water, wade in the water, children. Wade in the water, Yah's gonna trouble the water. I've always been so drawn to that song. In 1977, I was 10 years old, and that year was the most significant of my life. Before I ever heard the audible voice of Yah, He sent the rain. The rain did not come gently. 6 dams failed. Nearly 100 million gallons of water was released. Roads were torn away, bridges collapsed, entire towns were destroyed. Hundreds of lives were lost. Yet in the midst of that judgment, me and my family were protected. Our town became trapped. The bridge on one side was washed away. On the other side, water filled the tunnel, the only remaining exit. There was no way out by road. Surrounded by water with no clear escape, we didn't panic. Instead, slowly and carefully, me and my family walked up the mountain, away from the rising waters, until we reached dry ground. We walked out alive. Looking back, I understand something I could not have known then. The same water that brought destruction also made a way of separation. Judgment passed through the valley of Johnstown, Pennsylvania, but Yah preserved us and led us to safety. It was after that, after the water, that I heard the audible voice of Yah. The water came first. Then Yah called my name. And in taking a closer look at Moses' sister Miriam, I discovered some things that we're going to uncover today. We're going to look closely at Moses' birth, and we're going to look at the people involved, and that is Jochebed, Miriam, Moses himself, the tree, and water. Let's start with the water first. Genesis 1 verse 2. And the earth became without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters. Before anything is formed, there are waters. Exodus 14 verses 21 through 22. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yah caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. Then listen what happens next. Exodus 14 verses 26 through 28. And Yah said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared. And the Egyptians fled against it, and Yah overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. And the waters returned, and covered the chariots and the horsemen, and all the hosts of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. So the same water that preserves Israel destroys Egypt. Water is both judgment and protection. Now let's look at how deep water is described. And we find this in Proverbs 20 verse 5. Counsel in the heart of a man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. Torah defines wisdom as deep and hidden, not on the surface. Wisdom must be drawn out. Now let's look at Moses' mother, Jochebed. Exodus 2 verse 3. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. Moses is placed into the water by his mother, Jochebed. And in Hebrew, Jochebed means Yah is glory, or the weight of Yah. Yah's glory, Jochebed, entrusted life to the water, knowing that what Yah hides, he preserves. Now let's look at Moses' sister Miriam. Exodus 2, verse 4. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Miriam does not enter the water. She does not remove Moses. She stands over the water and watches. This is wisdom. Now let's look at Miriam's name in Hebrew. The Blue Letter Bible traces her name to the Hebrew root mir, which literally means bitterness. Some lexicons translate this as rebellion because unresolved bitterness can lead to resistance. But Torah itself defines Miriam more clearly. Miriam does not represent rebellion. She represents standing at bitterness long enough for it to be transformed. That is wisdom. Exodus 2, verse 7. Then said his sister Miriam to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? Miriam speaks once at the exact right moment. This is again wisdom. And the Torah shows us something very important about Miriam. While Miriam is alive and traveling with Israel in the wilderness, water is present. The land is dry, yet Israel is sustained. Torah does not explain why. It simply shows that this is the normal condition while Miriam is present. Then Torah marks a very sharp break. Numbers 20, verse 1. Then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, into the desert of Zin in the first month. And the people abode in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. And there was no water for the congregation, and they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. For the first time, the absence of water is directly tied to Miriam's absence. And the Torah shows this connection earlier in Numbers 12, verse 15. And Miriam was shut out from the camp 7 days, and the people journeyed not till Miriam was brought in again. When Miriam is removed, the people do not move forward. Progress stops. When she is restored, the journey continues. Wisdom is present, life flows. Wisdom removed, the flow stops. Now let's examine Moses. Exodus 2, verse 10. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, Because I drew him out of the water. So Moses was drawn out of the water, and Miriam, his sister, is the wisdom that watched over the process. Now let's look at the bitter water that appears after Israel is delivered. Exodus 15, verse 23. And when they came to Marah, they could not drink of the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore the name of it was called Marah. Deliverance does not remove bitterness, it reveals it. Exodus 15, verses 25 through 26. And he cried unto Yah, and Yah showed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statue and an ordinance, and there he proved them, and said, If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of Yah thy Elohim, and will do that which is right in his sight, and wilt give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am Yah that healeth thee. So the bitter water is not removed. The bitterness is not denied. The tree is applied. The tree is directly connected to statutes, commandments, and obedience. Proverbs 3, verse 18. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is every one that retaineth her. The tree is wisdom. Wisdom is Torah applied. And we find this in the Garden of Eden, in Genesis 2, verse 9. And out of the ground made Yah Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Trees determine life or death. Marah is Eden, played out again. But false systems like Christianity sweeten the water without the tree. Proverbs 20, verse 17. Bread of deceit is sweet to a man, but afterward his mouth shall be filled with gravel. And Jeremiah 6, verse 14. They have healed also the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly, saying, Peace, peace, when there is no peace. False religions remove bitterness immediately. They skip Torah and wisdom and offer sweetness without the transformation. They sweeten water by removing the tree. And this is very important. Torah without understanding tastes bitter, but Torah with wisdom becomes life-giving. The tree doesn't change the truth, it changes how the truth is received. In Torah, water is where Yah hides life and wisdom. Jochebed trusts Yah enough to place life there. Miriam understands the water and draws wisdom out. Moses is what emerges after separation. The tree is Torah applied, turning bitter truth into life. And the false religions imitate sweetness by removing Torah and wisdom entirely. Isaiah 58, verse 11. And Yah shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water, whose waters fail not.